Okay guys, we're going to cover installation, testing, and some considerations for this video. So we'll go over how you need to test the gear before you put it in the plane, make sure you're familiar with how your gear works, getting it set up, looking at what plane you're putting it in, and taking into consideration how the airflow and everything functions in that plane. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're looking at a couple different transmitters here. Got a little bit of a mess, so let me make this. We've got one analog transmitter here. Got my digital transmitter here. So that's a walk snail. This is run-of-the-mill, cheapo, analog. First thing to keep in mind, these transmitters get hot. If you'll notice that this one, it has shrink wrap around it. And this is to protect the electronics. You can still get to the two buttons on the side, but this doesn't allow the circuit board to cool down too well. You may want to consider doing something for that. It does have a couple mount holes. You could 3D print something. Get yourself a small cooling fan, something to put over it. Normally I put these in the airflow inside of the body somewhere, which is usually the same airflow that the ESC gets. Helps keep it cold. Same thing with this, and this gets a lot hotter. This is a digital transmitter. I do have, for this one, I will install I have a cooling fan for that. So it'll help cool things down. I still want it in the airflow inside of the body somewhere, just so that I'm not getting too much heat buildup. Helps cool everything down. Digital transmitters will shut off when they get too hot. Analog transmitters will most likely just burn up on you. When you go to test these, go through these before you put them in the plane. Make sure you know where your buttons are. Over here on the walk snail, your bind button is right here. Make sure you can get to the ports wherever you install it. The walk snail has a little USB plug, and this allows you to get the video off of it if you should need it, or to update the firmware. So that's something to keep in mind. So we want to keep these cool, put them in the airflow, test them before we put them on. When you go to test them, always make sure that you have the antenna on, because that can cause the transmitter to burn up. Same thing with the digital set. So make sure your antenna is on when you're testing it on the transmitter. You can easily burn up the final transistor that amplifies the signal. Go through all of your controls. Make sure you have your channel set, and make sure where you install this you can still reach it. So on my planes I can still get to those buttons. If I need to change the channel to a different channel for the analog, I can. Digital, you need to be able to bind it. It's almost like your regular RC receivers, so you have to bind it to the headset. So make sure you can get to that bind button. Alright, let's take a look at some of the stuff we have in the plane. Okay, so this was my first test bed platform dedicated to FPV. This is the E-flite T28. I think it's a 1.1 or 1.2 meter wingspan on it. Small little bird, but this has plenty of room in it. You can already see, if you look in the cockpit, I've gutted everything. And what I did is, it's just a light glue that's on this plastic on the canopy. So I've peeled the canopy back. And remember what I said, the transmitters get hot. So I actually have this whole area is open, so air comes in here. So it will have some airflow across that transmitter. And then I've actually cut a hole in the back of the canopy so that we have an exit space for that airflow. So we'll kind of get that airflow. Now you have other airflow on this plane. The vast majority of your electric planes are going to have that airflow anyway. We have airflow coming in from here that's forced air, and it's already ported the way they mold these. So we'll pull the canopy out of the way. You have airflow coming in here. Already have airflow for the ESC, and that airflow continues through the rest and then exits out on the bottom underneath of the plane. You always notice that a lot of foamies have those holes that are on the bottom, and that is your exit airflow. So they already have airflow going to help keep both the ESC and the motor cooled down a little bit. Some things you don't want to do. some considerations, and I'm going to show you the other plane in a minute. Wherever you put the camera, there's a lot of options. I put it all the way at the front, all the way up. This is blocking part of my view, so that is a problem. But if you have a front propeller, you're typically going to have to put it somewhere behind the motor. So keep in mind you're going to lose visibility. This camera's pitched up just slightly, but this is perfect visibility out front, so we're good to go. You don't want to sit it down there to where it's just kind of peeking up over top and then realize you just don't have the viewability to make it really worth it. You could potentially tuck that into the nose. If you were to tuck that into the nose of the plane, what would happen is as this propeller spins, on some of the videos that I've already showed you, you can already tell that you get the chop line. So you have that in the way, and you're going to have more of that from here. And on electrics, even when the motor's disengaged, the propeller is always spinning. So don't, if you try to shove it up in the front, you're really not going to get much out of it. So you've got to find the perfect placement. Some other places you could put it. You can put it out on the wingtip, or you could cut a piece of the wingtip out and put it right there, which would be ideal, as long as you have the cable, and you'll have to do cable management and figure out how to run it. You can mount the cable so that you can pull the camera to the back. And I have seen some people put it up on the back of the tail, all the way up high, and it can overlook the whole plane. So that's an option as well. For power, for this particular setup, I have a flight controller which takes care of my needs for BECs. And of course this runs through into the BEC. You can either run an additional battery, or if your setup will work off of 5 volts, you could tag off of your receiver if you have open channels. Or you can put another battery in there, or if you really want to, you could go with a BEC. You want to try and make it light. It just makes less hassle, a little bit more fly time. The more you add into it, the more weight you're adding. Okay, take a real quick look at one of my other ones, and I'm going to show you a wing real quick as well. If you notice, this is the Aero Scout. Of course, all the decals and everything have been stripped off of it. And the camera is on the front, so I don't have to worry about the propeller being in the way. The other thing I have set up, I've 3D printed a single access gimbal. And there's a servo inside of that little gimbal box that I've 3D printed and designed. And that allows me to control my camera, so I can turn my camera up or I can turn my camera down, and I can point straight down over top of wherever I'm flying. So if I want to take overhead shots of the field or something, I can do that. Of course, they're not going to be that great. This is an analog camera on this setup currently. I have my airflow right here, so the best choice for my transmitter, as you could already tell from the antenna sticking out, is that my transmitter is under there and it gets that full airflow. My flight controller and BEC and everything for this one is up in here. And with this, I get a little bit of a better view because I don't have any canopy or anything else in the way. I don't have the propeller flicking in front of it, so I don't have the broken lines. And overall, it's a little bit of a better perspective. There are other options that you can also pick. I have one of my FPV wings right here. If you can tell, it is a dual propeller. So having the dual propellers with the canopy sitting up front, again, you still have your motors. You're still on a tractor style pull, not a push prop. And your camera will be up on the nose. That makes it free of the propeller swing. You get a clear video, and you can shove that camera all the way up on the front so you don't have to worry about the canopy or the nose or anything else being in the way. Okay guys, that's it for this one. We're going to move on to advanced setups where things get kind of a little bit more complex, but we'll touch on that here in a couple minutes. Keep in mind, always test your gear before you put it in the plane. Test it once it's in the plane. Don't forget when you're testing it, the transmitters get hot. You want to make sure there's some airflow over it. Take a small fan if you need it, or install a small fan. Look at what you're doing. Think about it. Don't go cutting into the plane until you're ready to do it. And then go ahead and get it set up.